Welcome to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is on helping you, the real estate investor, advance to the next level. And now let's join this week's hosts and share ways for you to customize your life.
Which markets are you investing in 2022? Hawaii, maybe not yet at the time of this recording, but maybe when we see you in the fall or something, you'll have something, maybe. Or later on this year.
Or maybe even next week when I see Laurel. And I think you're coming out here too, aren't you?
Yes. The REITE Club will be live in Alberta for a week. So in Calgary and Edmonton. So at the time of this recording, we're in June, but maybe this will air later this summer, early fall. But yes, I'm curious, Tim, now, like to more serious business, where else are you investing now? What's happening in 2022? Yeah. So Hawaii is one potential. Yeah. Very different model to the condo hotel. Have you seen anything else that's new and exciting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year we became very active into the Arizona market, so mostly Phoenix Metro, and then also the Indianapolis market as well, and surrounding area. And about a month and a half ago, we actually traveled down to Cincinnati, Ohio, and the Covington, Kentucky area. And so just kind of doing a little bit more due diligence right now in terms of which markets are viable based on the business model that we have. And about 2 hours ago, before this recording happened, I literally just interviewed another property management company based out of the Indianapolis market.
So Tim, you're going to the US, and this morning in my email inbox was an email from the Canadian Real Estate Association, and the title was, "Why are all the GTA investors buying like crazy in Calgary? So why are we going to Calgary and the Alberta people, is going down to the US? What's happening here? How come you're not buying at home?"
Well, you know what? We are still buying at home. We just utilize different strategies. So I think it should probably clarify a little bit more, because I think a lot of people understand that, and this is something that we also teach because it's just our investing philosophy too, is the fact that we always start with a business plan. A business plan should be a profitable one. And so that becomes the financial goal, and that becomes the blueprint that we follow. And then from that point forward, we start to identify the strategies that we want to implement that particular fiscal year. And then after that, we start to pick markets that will contribute to those markets. So back in the Alberta markets, we are still actively doing acquisitions as well. However, our main strategies in the Alberta market has always been now the last 2 years between lending, your typical BRRRR and either flip, or BRRRR and duplex, as what you would call it out east. We usually call them suiting properties out west, as you know, and just kind of keep it as income properties, just because Alberta in general is typically, if you think about it, is where people come to have nice big yards. So single family detached is really where it's at. So inventory on multifamilies typically is very, very low, and it's very, very competitive, because whenever something comes up, then there's 100 investors kind of swarming onto it as well, if you want to stick close to the city center. And so, yes, we are absolutely doing that. But then at the same time, we're just very strategy based. And the last one in Alberta has been and always will be lease option, so rent to own. Simply because, especially right now with the economy that Alberta is, the economic situation, and finally, because you guys have been experiencing a lot of really natural market appreciation over the last few years, when Alberta kind of stayed sideways, for the first time in 6 years, we're seeing the markets rebound in a very, very big way. And so we're very strategy driven. And 2 months ago, we actually did acquire a 60-unit apartment out east in Canada as well. So we've kind of hit our quota on multis in Canada, and that's why we are going down to the US a little bit more aggressively now too. Bless you.
Sorry. So that's exciting to hear about all these opportunities in Alberta rebounding. And then, you used to do rent to own, lease to own for quite a bit. Well, I guess there's some fundamentals happening there. You need to see some appreciation, some migration as well, like growth in population. And that's what Alberta is experiencing right now as well. So,
yes.
So prices are rising, okay, in Alberta, well, in Alberta right now, but so our interest, but then interests are rising everywhere because it's a national phenomenon. What's your take on the rising interest rates right now?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna really put on my investor's hat on. I actually really love it personally, simply because of the fact that I do believe that that takes away the HGTV trained buyers, the
Yes.
investors that are really property collectors. And so it allows the markets to really correct itself positively, and that it really allows people like us to be able to get back and stick to the fundamentals even more, so that eventually, collectively, I think as a buying group, as professional and trained investors over time, we are able to correct the market together. But then for me, really, it's awesome because you no longer have emotional buyers that are going, I'm just going to buy and flip something or buy and hold it forever. Because now with the rising interest rates for those people, yeah, before they might be feeding about $50 to $100 into every single property and just waiting for the market to go up. And now they're going, hang on a second, can I actually afford to go in the negative for 200, 300, 400, especially if they want to scale, which is a bit of a nightmare from our perspective, I think. So I do like that. It's painful, don't get me wrong. I do like it for the market correction part. However, for acquisition, it's painful because we're on the flip side, we're also seeing our own cash flow diminish a little bit at the moment.
That's it. So
it's at the same time, sorry, Francois, just a comment on this, because I'm looking at the, I'm talking about to two people here who were not around in 1981 when the interest rate was 21.85%. So even as interests are rising, people seem to have a very, very short memory. They don't remember that, say, 7 or 8 years ago, 5%, 4%, 6% was the norm. And then it went crazy to 1.95 or whatever. And now it's rebounding to what, 375, 4.25, and everybody's panicking. Hey guys, this is even cheaper than it's been over the last 20, 30 years. So you should have been around in 1981. You would think that 4.5% right now is free money.
Exactly. That's an amazing point. And actually, it still is free money if we actually think about inflation.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't even match inflation, not anywhere close.
Exactly.
Which is insane.
Exactly.
So very cool. So yeah, interesting optic as well. Very different. A lot of people are fearing, but you're seeing the opportunity. And I think that's how investors need to see it. Even at 21%, I'm sure people were buying properties back in the 80s. We saw construction. There are homes and buildings that were built in the late 70s, early 80s with crazy interest rates. There was a lot more private lending, second, third mortgages. My parents told me all about it. We had 3 mortgages on our house, things like that, which is things you don't hear as much, but it is happening more and more again. So it's like full cycle 40 years later. So
yeah, 100%. And frankly, this is sort of the I call it 2.5 cycles that we've experienced now, because we've been living in Edmonton, Alberta for 12.5 years at this point. And so when we first moved here in 2009, that was pretty much right after the global financial crisis, or kind of in the middle of it still. And so we got to see what it was like right before the market kind of cooled down. However, Alberta is really interesting in that sense. That's what we've also learned being a resident here, is the fact that, well, we're really, really heavily oil and gas driven. And as much as a lot of statistics might tell you it's 25%, that's what it accounts for. However, let's not forget oil and gas. There's also byproducts for import and export as well. So yes, while the Alberta economy overall is diversifying, and I'm happy for that, obviously, at the same time, though, we're still very heavily driven by oil and gas prices and the trajectory of it. And so, during 2009, when every other province was kind of suffering because we're impacted by the global financial crisis, Alberta was actually doing quite okay. It wasn't until 2014 when it actually really crashed. So
yeah, when everybody else was booming, you guys crashed. So it's
exactly. And now it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah, like right now, Ontario, things are really cooling off and things are changing. It's not perfect, but Alberta is still seeing some major increases. So again, this leads us to the next question. What do you think investors should do with the speculated recession? Because this inflation, increasing interest, all kinds of things will most likely lead to some sort of recession.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I guess Econ 101 concept, it's all supply and demand, first of all. And second of all, I do personally believe that we are going into recession. It's just a matter of how deep and how long. Because again, rising interest rate, what that also means is it's encouraging the general public to save money, to tighten their belts, to budget a little bit better, simply because their fixed expenses, if they have debt, if they have mortgages, they have HELOCs, for example, their debt servicing is going to go up, which means they're going to cut down spending in other places, and that's going to drive the economy into recession, period, by definition, really. However, the government is going to have to look at it and go, hang on a second, because traditionally, how do governments curb recession or bring the economy back up?
Thanks for listening to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is on helping all levels of real estate investors advance to the next level and help you customize your life. Be sure to tune in next week at reiteclub.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you get a few seconds, please rate the podcast wherever you're listening. It helps the show get noticed by others like you, and we truly appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe.